Hello there, everyone. How are you doing? Welcome to the PM Playbook podcast. I have a very special guest, one of my very good friends who I met on LinkedIn, Kayla McGuire. Welcome to the show. How are you doing, Kayla?
I am doing so wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about our conversation.
Yeah, no, I've been looking forward to this. And Kayla, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Kayla McGuire, and I am the founder of Kayla McGuire Consulting. I have been freelancing as a project manager for the last about 5 years now. Prior to that, I was working as a project manager. Got into freelancing and started out managing small projects for agencies, started landing some bigger projects, and now I work primarily in consulting and helping entrepreneurs build and scale their businesses, provide strategic and operational support and consulting services.
Awesome. Yeah, so listeners and viewers, this is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about freelancing for project managers, for PMs, for program managers, etc. So I really want to delve into this topic, and I think Kayla is the perfect person to talk about this because, like, this is her niche. This is what she focuses on. So, Kayla, so glad to have you on the show. Now, I want to just first start with definition. So, what's freelancing, right?
Yeah. So when you are a freelancer, you work for yourself.
Okay.
You're like your own boss. You're a free agent. You are a solopreneur, whatever you want to call it. You're working for yourself. So you're responsible for finding work. And in the case of a project manager, you would be responsible for finding clients who need project management support. So that's really what a freelancer is. You're not working for a company, like a full-time sort of a situation or even a part-time situation. You're responsible for a lot of things. Like here in the United States, you would be responsible for your own healthcare, and those sorts of considerations. Also, there's tax considerations as well. So freelancer is really, you are in business on your own and you're a business of one.
Okay. And I noticed at the top of the call, you had mentioned consulting as well. So freelancing, consulting, contracting, are these different, the same?
Well, there can be some overlap, right? So I'm a freelancer, but I'm also a consultant.
Okay.
And I can also be a freelancer and have a contract with a company, which makes me a contractor. If I have an agreement with a company, there is a certain job that they have hired me for that has a start and an end. I'm a contractor, right? So there can be some overlap in it. When you are a consultant, this is a difference that I want to point out, because when I started out, like I said, I was managing small projects. I was a project manager, a freelance project manager. That was what I was hired to do, was to actually manage the project. Now I work in consulting, which is providing strategic or expert advice to company leaders. And that's really the difference between being a consultant versus a project manager. If you're hired to manage the project, you're a project manager. If you're hired to provide strategy, direction, advice about maybe how they build their PMO or how they strategize their project plans, then you could call yourself a consultant.
Nice. I love that distinction. So freelancing, consulting, contracting, there's a lot of overlap, but I love the delineation there. So that's very helpful. Now, how can one get started as a freelance PM? Maybe if somebody says, okay, maybe I want to venture out on my own. I've been working in corporate for a while, but now I want to become a freelancer and maybe from there become a consultant. How does one get started?
I love this question because I talk to folks about this just about every day. Coach people on how they can get started in freelancing. So this is a fantastic question. First of all, it just depends on you and your own situation, maybe how serious you are about pursuing a freelance lifestyle. Because as I mentioned at the beginning, there are some unique considerations that we have to keep in mind with the fact that we're sourcing our own work, we're responsible for a lot more. So maybe you're not ready to dive into that full-time just yet. Maybe you have some responsibilities that make it as such where it would be a wise decision to keep your full-time job while you pursue this freelancing path. If that's the case, you can look for opportunities that are very part-time in nature, very fractional in nature. Just start out managing those small projects. I mentioned working for agencies. That's how I started out. Agencies are an interesting beast because their work really ebbs and flows. And so it makes it a really great place for project managers to look for that freelance type of work, because maybe this is a time of year where the agency has a lot more projects. They need to bring on some extra help. You could possibly offer your services in that way. But yeah, that's the first consideration, is to really figure out your own lifestyle, your own goals, and what's going to make the most sense for you in this moment. If you're ready, like sometimes I talk to people and they say, you know what, I have some money saved up, or maybe I have a partner who makes an income and it is as such to where I can just jump into this immediately. I want to be a freelancer like today. You can also do that. Just keep in mind that it is going to take some time to build up your pipeline. This is a business just like anything else. So we do have to build up our pipeline, find those clients, and the work there's nowhere you can go and just click a button and find work as a freelancer. There's really not. There's freelance platforms, but that's not how it works.
Okay. There, just quickly, are you looking for a PM role? Have you been struggling in this insane, crazy job market? Well, if this sounds like you, we might be able to help you. We've helped lots of people land 100 to 300K PM roles. All you have to do is just click on the link below, answer some questions. And if we see that there's an initial fit, you will be invited to a free 30-minute call where we can further assess your job search goals and challenges. And if we see that we'll be able to help you, we would explain to you how we can do that and what the next steps will be. All right, then, back to the show. And I want to really talk about that. So you mentioned agencies. Where can people find these agencies?
I would start by, because there's different types of agencies. So I would start with, what do you have experience in or a comfort level working with? Tech agencies, like if you've been a tech project manager, that would be a great place to look, as like a software type of an agency. If you have social media background, marketing background, that's also a fantastic choice for agency project management work. Those are the two key places that I would recommend that you start looking. But tap into your network. Do you know anybody that works for an agency? Do you, is there anyone on LinkedIn that you follow that works for an agency, or who you could connect with? That's where I would start.
Okay. And I'm just thinking about the person maybe who might not even know, like they're so fresh, in this, and they don't even know what agencies are. So are we talking about like the Robert Halfs, the Hayes? Is that what you mean by agencies? Is that what we mean?
No, I'm talking more about organizations that provide a specific service and they just sell by the service or by the product. So like a creative agency that produces video, for example. There may be a few core people that work at that agency. They go out and find clients, but then they source folks to help them actually create those videos, the producers, the artists, the graphic artists. So it's a lot of different hands that come together to produce a product, and they may not all work directly as full-time employees for that particular company. That's the kind of agency I'm talking about.
Okay. And so if I heard you correctly, you said we tend to find these type of agencies in the tech space or in the
marketing, creative. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And are there some examples that in the tech side that you are comfortable sharing? On the tech side?
I do know of a few.
Okay.
I'm not going to drop any names
Okay.
right
That's,
now.
yeah,
Yeah, because
that's
most
fine.
of the agencies that I know and that I've worked with, they're smaller and I have personal relationships with them. And
Mm,
so that's why it's a really great place to start building relationships is with other
yeah.
people who, who work at agencies or have agencies. But yeah,
Yeah. No, that's completely fine. When it comes to you talked about platforms like Upwork and Fiverr and all of these. So, because a lot of times when people think of freelance work, they think go on some of these platforms. I got a sense that maybe that's not your first recommendation, just from what you mentioned. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, would you say go on these platforms or no?
that is not my first recommendation at all. It's interesting because that's often the first place people go. They go
Mm,
there and they spend just insane amounts of time putting in bids
mm,
for work and for projects for very, very, very minimal, if any, return on that
mm,
investment. So these platforms, like you mentioned, Upwork, Fiverr, I'm not to speak ill of them because plenty
mm,
of people have had success on them. They're
mm,
quite saturated. And especially if you're someone who's living in Canada, United States, and you're bidding for work on these platforms, there are
yeah,
going to be folks in other areas that can offer much more competitive rates for their services. And so it's
yeah,
often a race to the bottom when it
mm,
comes to price. And that can be really disheartening, especially
yeah,
if you're just getting started as a freelancer and you're already kind of devaluing your service just to
mhm,
remain competitive.
yeah,
And yeah, you might lose some motivation that way. Um, how I've seen it be successful for people is when they are extremely niche about the service that they offer on these platforms. So, for example, if you're a project manager and you have extensive expertise in, let's say, Notion, like
mm,
you just know Notion like the back of your hand, you can build boards, whatever.
mm,
Um, Offering a very, very specialized service or offer on the freelance platforms could be beneficial. Like that might be something that that would sell well on that platform, is something that's super specific, super
yeah,
niche. You're really clear about your offer. But if you're just going on there like, hey, I'm a project manager and I'll manage your project,
mm.
you're gonna have a really hard time.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, because it's saturated, and then there are many more people that can do it for less. So what about if somebody is maybe trying to break into the PM space? Maybe they are just fresh of college and they want to build their experience. Would you advise them to go on the platform and maybe even do some, I don't know, maybe free work for a short time just to really build that experience? What do you think about that strategy?
You would have to be really honest with yourself about how you feel about doing that.
Mm,
Um, yeah, anytime you're offering something for free, I think it's not always a bad strategy because there's certainly something to learn from it. But
mhm.
you're going to have to be really honest with yourself about what your boundaries are for that type of arrangement
Yeah.
and your own expectations. Sure, you could do that. Often, though, Mukhtar, and I'm sure you have seen this as well, when you do, even if you're new, even if you're brand new to
Mm,
project management, offering something at a free or really low rate can often make the person receiving that service feel like they're entitled
yeah.
to the world.
Mhm.
And then you get into these situations where the scope of work, um,
Yeah.
scope creep. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
nodding your
Yeah.
head.
No, for sure. Yeah, it balloons, and then they think that they can ask for everything and anything, right? So, yeah,
Yeah.
completely resonates 100%. Okay, so what would you recommend for somebody who is new and they're trying to build that PM experience? Is freelancing a way to do that, or one way to do that? And how would you recommend they proceed?
It certainly can be. And the best way to proceed is by starting with your own network, Family and friends is a great place to start. We all know somebody in our family or friend circle that has their own business. They're doing their own thing. Maybe they're even solopreneurs like we are. We talked before we started this episode about how much work we have on our plates as solopreneurs. And if you are someone who's new to project management, offering your services in that way, hey, I could create a Monday board for you, or hey, I could do this to kind of help you. I would love to offer my services to you to help myself, to help you. Starting with who you know, your friends and family. From there, volunteer opportunities in your community, another fantastic way to find work as a freelance project manager, or just to get your feet wet. Like you said, if you're someone that's new, that's a great place to look as well.
Okay. No, I like that. So can we talk about maybe some common pitfalls or mistakes that you see people make in the freelancing consulting space? Like, what are some of those?
Well, the first one you mentioned, and that is going onto those platforms and expecting to find work, because it's very likely you're going to send 50 or 100 bids for maybe one actual good one. So that is the first pitfall that I see. The second is also another thing I mentioned at the beginning of this call, is not really understanding the difference between I'm a project manager versus a consultant. When you are a consultant, you need to be prepared to be able to have the confidence to offer that expert advice. If you are not there yet with your career, if you're not at that level yet, don't call yourself a consultant. So that's another really important one to look at. Another big mistake, and I touched on this one a little bit, and that's just underpricing yourself. People do this so often. I mean, I will talk to folks who have 15, 20 years of experience. They're PMP certified. They have MBAs. They say, hey, I'm thinking about getting into freelancing. And we start talking about rates, and they say, I was thinking, I don't know, $20 or $30 an hour. And that's just not, you might find work. You probably will find work at that rate, but you're going to burn out. You're going to start to feel resentful. If you're not at that level, don't undercharge. Charge an appropriate rate. Talk to someone who knows what those rates will be for your level of experience, and charge an appropriate rate. It may take you longer to find the right client, and that's okay. I think patience with finding the right client, understanding that not everyone is the right client for you, is really important. The other thing I would say, a big mistake that I see, is people go out there and they just brand themselves as like, I'm a project manager, and there's no differentiation. So as I mentioned, when you're a freelancer, you're in business. You're in business for yourself. You're a business of one, which means you must have a clear competitive advantage. So like, if you're just saying, I'm a freelance project manager, people don't really know who hires you. Like, what exactly do you do? So in my case, my background is with startups who are building and scaling. And that's really where I've found my niche as a project manager. That's what I lean into. Those are the clients that I help. Those are the clients that I support. When I do have other offers that come my way, I often turn them down, refer them to someone else, because it's just not in my wheelhouse. It doesn't make sense for me, because then I have to go learn something new. And learning isn't bad. We want to keep learning, but when you're in business, you really need to stay in your lane and just continually get better at that thing it is that you love and that you do. So I do sometimes turn down work when it's just not in my niche. I know I'm going to have to, in some cases, reinvent the wheel when it comes to my services, and I don't want to do that. So that's another suggestion that I have.
Yeah, no, and they say the riches are in the niches, right? And there's nothing wrong with referring somebody else, to that, referring that opportunity to somebody else, and sometimes you can sort of make an arrangement with another person, right? That whenever I refer this to you, maybe you can get a certain percentage, right? So you're doing what you're comfortable with, and then you're also helping somebody else out, right? So that's pretty common. Awesome. So This is really good. I enjoyed this conversation, and yeah, thank you for really shedding light into the freelance consulting contracting space. If the listeners or the viewers wanted to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Kayla McGuire. You can also find me on my website. You can contact me on my website. It's kaylamcguire.com. You can find me on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Kayla McGuire. So I make it really easy. I'm not a branding expert, obviously.
Yeah, sometimes the best branding is just to use your name, right? So you're consistent across the board. So
across the board. Yep. Kayla McGuire, that's where you can find me. And I would love to hear from you if you're interested in getting into freelancing, if you have questions about that. I have some resources as well that are available. I have a freelance project manager guidebook that's available on Gumroad. And I have a freelance project manager course that is also available, and you can find both on my website. I try to offer really helpful, actionable steps to get to the goal that you would like for yourself. And I understand that we all have different goals. It's not going to look the same for me as it is for you. But I think it's important to, what do they say? They say, oh gosh, I just lost my train of thought. But basically what I'm trying to say is by sharing our own successes, we help other people learn. So definitely. I'm a big believer in that. And I'm really honest and upfront about everything I've experienced and what I've learned. And now I'm offering that to whoever is interested.
Nice. Well said. And please keep on doing that. Thank you very much, Kayla. And this has been a pleasure. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.